Thanks everyone for coming today. My name is Joshua Moskowitz, and I'm the Director of Solutions Engineering for the IBM Looker partnership.
And I'm Madison Gooch. I work on our global sales team for Watson Data and AI with IBM. Welcome.
Yeah. And today we're going to be talking about creating operational workflows for machine learning and AI. So we'll be talking about a little bit about the partnership and really kind of what our joint offering is coming together to deliver. We're going to focus a little bit on an analytics use case that we built for HR and do a live demo of that. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's next for some of the tools and technologies that we're presenting on today and how you all can learn more and maybe even get your hands on some of the stuff that we're showing. So why are IBM and Looker working together? And outside of just me finally getting to meet this Watson person that I think we hear a lot about, we have a similar approach, and that's making data accessible and reliable, which we've heard about today. Looker's platform approach is doing that, and we're doing that in a lot of different ways, using data actions and the APIs and really building custom experience so we can deliver data to people when they need it in the workflows that they need it. IBM's been developing a rich set of platforms and tools and technologies that enriches data further with machine learning, data and AI, algorithms and tools that we want to now present forward to the business. So can we combine the data that we're providing with the services and the platform that IBM has built to make these operational use cases for AI real and tangible to the business?
Yeah, but as we know it today, businesses still struggle to operationalize data and AI at scale. And as AI technologies are kind of on the rise and ever exceeding in companies and folks are looking to use these to enrich current data assets, we still see a couple of issues. We see siloed data, we see different siloed approaches. And if you look at a lot of the tools and platforms that are out there, it's really focused around building and has been up until this point in time. There's one statistic that I'll share because it's much in line with the use case that we're going to show today. When data scientists are hired by companies, they generally spend about 18 to 24 months at those companies, and within that time period, they productionalize an average of 1.7 models. I don't know about you, but I've never seen 7/10 of a model productionalized, so that's effectively one. These platforms and what we're going to talk to you about today are all about how we increase that, how we increase the deployment of these models, how we increase the insights, but also how we operationalize with a platform like Looker so that we can make these insights consumable and repeatable to all types of personas across the organization. So as we built out these really powerful data science, machine learning, and AI platforms and tools at IBM, you know, we were really kind of missing that piece of what was going to make it operational to people who needed to consume the data. And Looker fit the bill. So we're super jazzed about this partnership and what we've been able to create here. And we're really seeing it come full circle from a unified platform perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
But again, we're still facing some challenges today. So we've kind of boiled these down into four things. We think about data. Data is increasingly ever on the rise. No one's unfamiliar with that concept. There's lots of structured data, unstructured data is growing on the daily. You have data that's internal to your organization or things externally that you need to leverage. You may have data stored in on-prem systems or you may have it stored on the cloud. But there's still a challenge in offering up self-service access to data and also doing that in a governed manner. Self-service really isn't a reality unless we think about the governance layer. Your tools can abound, right? Things that people can visualize data in and kind of glean insights. But without considering governance, your insights could be on bad or incorrect data. So with ever-wielding regulations and compliance requirements, read like things like GDPR in Europe, we have to think about this concept and putting the right data in the hands of the right users. We also have to think about skill sets. And so what you're going to see from us today is a platform that takes skill sets that are existing to many people inside of an organization and brings that together in a collaborative fashion so that they can all work together. It's not about creating something that is proprietary that a user has to come to us and learn how to use. We want to be able to exploit existing skill sets that they have so that you're more productive and that you can innovate more quickly. And then finally, tools. Disparate and discrete tool sets really inhibit the type of productivity that we're after with this platform. And while we can deploy in a variety of different manners, be that public cloud, in a premium cloud instance, or on the private cloud, we see cloud as a way to innovate quickly, and it enables a fail-fast approach, which on the other end means that you can succeed a lot more quickly as well. So let me start telling you a little bit about kind of this unified offering and platform that you're going to, again, see live in action today from my pal Josh. So first it starts with the data. Again, like we said, structured data, unstructured data, internal to your systems, external to your organization, and wherever it's persisted, wherever it's stored. We want to embrace all types of data. And that's exactly what something like our knowledge catalog does. Knowledge catalog enables self-service access to data, and really this concept of shopping for data, where a user can go in and through natural language, they can search through an asset that they're looking for, no matter where it lives or where it's persisted throughout the organization. We've also developed a set of automated classification capabilities so that when your metadata is read in through knowledge catalog, we can deem whether there is information that is PII-driven, HIPAA-driven, or has other sensitive components to it. And if it does, we're able to govern that information through an automated policy enforcement engine, again, putting the right data in the hands of the right users. Looker is directly integrated with Knowledge Catalog, and you're going to see some of that in action today. So once a user self-serves and finds a piece of data that they want to work with, or has integrated different data assets that live within their company, they can explore and transform and operationalize those through the Looker platform. As Josh mentioned, many companies today want to do further enrichment upon those data types, and they may want to do this in the realm of data science, machine, deep learning, or AI. Watson Studio enables a collaborative platform with many of the best-in-breed open source frameworks you guys would be familiar with, things like RStudio, Jupyter Notebooks, and a variety of ways to code, but also has IBM capabilities that we've built in around automated modeling or modeling via a Canvas system, again, so that we can bring users with all types of skill sets to collaborate on one platform. Through Watson Studio, we also enable the use of different Watson APIs. So Josh may talk about today, I won't steal the thunder of his story, but we were sitting at a presentation very recently, and I was up kind of sharing this platform offering, and he got up and said, well, in the 10 minutes that I sat back there and listened to you do that, I just built a visual recognition model inside of Watson Studio and am able to show that through Looker. So if you, again, want to enrich your data with AI, Watson Studio is a place that enables you to do that. But more importantly, this unified offering is really the iterative and scalable approach that is going to allow businesses to innovate very quickly. So you guys are here to see a demo today, and Josh is going to take you through a little bit more deeply the architecture that we set up to build what you're going to see in action.
Yeah. And I'll kind of go through this quickly, but just kind of level set on how the data is moving through and the different systems we'll be talking about, and then we'll kind of take a quick look at that live. So the one thing that's interesting about both of our approaches, especially kind of with data and the customers that we're seeing, is that enterprise data and business data is pretty messy. It could be anywhere. It could be on-prem. It could be in the cloud. It could be in other third-party systems. And when you're going through these data science projects and these AI projects, you typically also want access to other sets of data that might be external to your systems. You might not have built a pipeline for it yet. It might not be in a production instance, but you still want to be able to use those images or those CSV files or just whatever external data set that might be relevant in your projects. The catalog approaches it the same way with Looker. Keep your data where it is, but understand and add those connections so that when you want to bring in data sets and you want to create connected data assets for your projects, you can leverage those, you can govern, and then you can ETL them when necessary. It also comes with default storage. So if you are storing some of those structured or unstructured data sets, they're going to sit in the Cloud Object Store that can then be accessed in projects and leveraged within some of these services and tools. Looker is a connection in the catalog. So we can take our Looker instance and connect to the databases just like we normally would, those other connections that are part of the catalog, but also create our models, our LookML models, and our dashboards, our reports, things that we also want to govern and share with the business as operational content that they can use on a day-to-day basis. But then finally, also delivering data sources and cleansed data sets to Watson Studio. So if we're going to be walking through an example today where we're building survival analysis and we've gone ahead and cleaned up some data and made it ready for a production use case, we can now deliver that seamlessly into the Studio environment where we're running those algorithms and deploying that runtime. The Studio is interesting in that it will access both the IBM object storage as well as the data that we're servicing through tools like DB2 Cloud Warehouse in this example. But you're also leveraging open source, as we mentioned. These are familiar frameworks where if you have a Jupyter notebook or if you're coding in Python or Keras and TensorFlow, you can deploy those environments as well. But you still get the same GUI-based approach with the modeler if you want to go more kind of that route as well. The key part here on operationalizing and what we'll see today is actually sending those results back to where we can use them within the business. So within the catalog, you're able to send from notebooks directly into your connected databases. There's also some ETL tools that you can send results into connections that are within your catalog. So you can actually feed those back in and start to present them through Looker in the interface there. In the future, and this is a little bit, I'm saying something that's on a roadmap, but I'll bring it up now, is we'll be supporting SQL query service on Cloud Object Store. So as we're also landing in results of these models and productions and learnings, we're able to access those directly. So we have our data warehouses that we're connected to, but we also have our Cloud Object Store. Cool. So let's quickly go to the demo here. Actually, let me set the stage on what the demo is about. So what we wanted to focus on for this one was around employee retention. So I think I read a stat in Forbes at the beginning of the year that employee retention or turnover is at the highest it's been in about 10 years, and it costs the economy something like $160 billion a year in employee turnover costs. So that's finding new employees, training them, and kind of dealing with that knowledge gap that's left behind. But I think for all of our businesses, whether we're thinking about our employees, our customers, our clients, our users, engagement, retention, and understanding what causes people to leave is something that we want to understand deeper. And then if we can build something operational, so if we see an employee or a customer showing those signs, we can intervene at the right time with the insights that are being delivered from AI models or machine learning models or whatever those insights that data science has delivered to us. So that's what we focused on here. And I will now switch screens, and this is always when it gets kind of scary because the Wi-Fi has been a little iffy and all that stuff. But
I'll just add while Josh is pulling that up, the data set that you're going to see today is an employee data set. There's combinations of structured data and unstructured data that were taken into account here. He's going to talk about how we use some of the Watson APIs, the Looker technology, as well as what you've just heard in our unified platform to bring that data together and to mine insights, no matter where that data was stored or what type of data that it was. So this employee data is, keep me honest, how many thousands of employees?
So this is about 1,500 rows. So it's not a massive, big production data set, but it's definitely enough to kind of build a basic model on.
Yeah, but a sample, and you're going to get to see all parts of the platform through what we've got here.
And you killed a lot of time there. That I was already set up pretty quickly, so thank you.
Okay.
I should go slower next time. Okay, great. So this is the knowledge catalog. As we mentioned, this is places where you're adding connections, you're adding your data sources. So we uploaded that CSV to the catalog. Once it was in the catalog, I also provisioned a DB2 Cloud Warehouse database that I also added. And so then I could quickly move the data into the DB2 Warehouse database. Once I had that in place, I connected Looker to the database. I generated my initial model, which I think most people in the room here are familiar with what I mean when I say, look-ML model. And then we built up just an overview dashboard, as well as a data set that we were going to use to power the Watson Studio notebook. A lot of stuff right there. So if I actually click in here, we'll see our Looker dashboards, hopefully, if things load. Awesome. So we see a number of different dashboards that I've gone ahead and cataloged. And this is the high-level overview dashboard of our employee data. We get tags for all of the model metrics that were created in lookup. We'll get an image that will hopefully load. There we go. And then a link back to that in Looker. So if I go and open that, this should be mostly familiar for people, so I won't necessarily spend a lot of time on this, but this is just kind of a standard Looker dashboard. We see high-level metrics about our employees, our turnover, different information just about their education and job level breakout. And all things are true of Looker here, right? So if I'm looking at a particular data point, like our lab technicians that are coming from medical, I want to drill in. I see all that rich information about them, where they came from, and then any insights that are delivered from models, right? So is this someone that has a high propensity for churn or not? Those additional insights that are being delivered. So if I scroll down to the bottom here, we also have different information around attrition itself. So for example, I thought this was interesting. Like people that have bad work-life balance show higher levels of attrition. But the same thing on the flip side, they're actually slightly higher for people that have good work-life balance. So maybe there's like a matter of being a little bit too comfortable in your role and wanting something different. So I did find that kind of interesting. So as I mentioned before, we can also take cleansed data sources from Looker. So when I create a report or I've cleaned up the data in some way via the data model, I can create those as connected data assets in my Studio environment. So the Studio environment is where now that I have these data feeds feeding into the environment, I can start to actually do the machine learning, the data science, leveraging these services to build something of a prediction. And so we see a number of different data assets here. We'll touch on the natural language classifier that we use in just a minute. You'll see the VR model that Madison alluded to. I was able to classify clean and dirty bikes. So I was kind of doing something fun like that. And then we have our notebooks. And the notebook is where we actually focus for this particular use case. So we did, anyone here familiar with survival analysis or has ever built one before? So Cox Cox hazard proportional model. That's what we went for with this one. And so within the notebook, I am showing this version, which is more of a read-only because I have some cells that have hidden credentials. What I liked about working in the notebook was the integration with the catalog. So I could do things like go to a connection and insert the credentials without having to pass around credentials because it's already a part of that kind of fiber. Additionally, I could insert data frames of data directly into the notebook, so I didn't have to worry about like generating the API call or connecting to it directly. Like if that was a connected data asset, it becomes a data frame in my notebook, and I can leverage it, and it's always a live pull of the data. So if I'm running these models in production and the data is refreshing, and in the example of Looker and with the catalog, we're typically connected to production databases. As fresh data comes in, they can feed directly into the models that we're building, whether they're in the notebooks or whether they're in other services.
That's a super important point, Josh, on the machine learning aspect too, because as more production data is fed into that database, we have a capability with DB2 Warehouse on cloud. We set that up with Watson Machine Learning that your model is also updated at the same time. So if you have people coming to your business or leaving your business every single day, we're able to display that information through Looker as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the key thing to call out here too is as we go through the actual, the data science itself, we also have the integration pushing the results back into the DB2 Cloud Warehouse. So when we get the baseline survival curve and the baseline hazards, and we get the coefficients of the model, and even the summary, so we could actually present back, like, here are the coefficients, and here's the values that they're showing, and here's whether or not they're statistically significant. We can send that all back into the data warehouse. So that way, when we're looking at employees, kind of back to the demo, and we have something here that's set up as a job hopper alert, which is really kind of what we're talking about here. Let's take those survival analysis and let's make something operational. This is an alert that if a certain criteria is met on a employee's likelihood to have attrition, they'll show up here. But only the employees that have very high ratings. So we have this kind of stack ranked based on these are employees that might leave, and we really value them. They're actually performing very well. Like, let's go take some action. And I think, as we think about kind of the next phase for Looker and the platform and different integrations with tools and technologies and within the enterprise, leveraging things like data actions is going to be really huge. So if I'm an HR team, for example, and I see a certain employee and I see that they might be showing a high risk, I can actually enter in, a request and maybe go ping some application that we're using to manage our employees or open up some research there. Or maybe I want to send an email, just a direct email, maybe to the manager, or maybe to the team or the department or the employee themselves, and just set up some conversation to talk with them and understand maybe what's going on and if they're showing some risk and maybe why. We can run and interact with models directly. So all of the models that are deployed in Watson Studio have your endpoints that accept input. So if we know that our actions can send user input to those models, we can actually be running them directly from Looker and then have those results, again, piped into the warehouse and presented back to us. And then finally, we can kind of dig deeper into an individual employee. So if I click this employee lookup dashboard, again, I'm going to be mindful of kind of opening up too many new screens here. We can now look at this particular employee. We see the retention curve here. That's actually a lot of math happening on the LookML side. So we actually take the coefficient, each value that was run through the model, and then render that line. So that's the data sitting in DB2, and then building up it's a lot of exponentials and normalization of the employee data to create that curve for them directly. We wanted to experiment with parameters too. So if I'm a certain a manager and I want to see what's the impact of maybe increasing the income for this particular employee, how does that affect their survival curves? We can kind of run those types of what-if analysis as well. And then finally, on the piece that I found really interesting is we've been kind of finding more examples in the field is working on semi-structured data sets like performance reviews. So we took a bunch of performance review text from employees, and you can imagine in big companies, every year you submit those reviews and you're kind of talking about your manager, or maybe you're talking about your employees. And we applied Watson Discovery, and keep me honest when I talk about this stuff, Watson Discovery and Tone APIs to basically look at the text and extract certain entities. So are these positive traits? Are people happy? Are they sad? And try to look at that over time. So this particular employee, for example, they had a high anger score in 2017, but the anger score that was pulled out in 2018 was a little bit lower. They're showing a little bit more signs of joy. So basically taking all of this semi-structured data and starting to extract something that is presentable and actionable back to the business by applying some structure that's delivered from these services that do natural language understanding and tone and assessment, and God only knows how many other services there are.
Looking at their personality.
That's
Are they
right.
really happy, right? And what can we do to make them a little bit happier, because we know the cost of keeping them is going to be much less than finding someone else to replace them.
That's right.
And we value them, right?
So we just breezed through that. Really, the rest of the presentation is what's next. So there's a lot of other services, neural networks that we're looking at, doing some visual recognition things, really just taking everything that Watson's kind of bringing to bear from a machine learning and AI space and then taking Looker and delivering the data, but then building something operational from that. So we're really excited about that, as well as some deeper product integrations, both into the studio and into the catalog. I think you saw static images today. We'll use our embeddability there to make sure that those are filterable and embedded as iframes in that experience as well. Anything else come to mind?
Yeah, I would just say for us at Watson, our mission is around embedding AI into existing or new applications and processes. And so we want to take Looker to all of our Watson customers and help them further operationalize their data and AI at scale and embed it into their processes so it becomes kind of part of their day-to-day life as well. We want to make it usable and reusable.
That's right.